Morning, everybody. MikesMMAPicks here with your Fight Morning Quick Card Breakdown show for UFC Paris, where we have 12 fights. 6 fights expected to end inside the distance, or currently favored to end inside the distance. These bouts take place inside of the larger octagon, inside of a packed house. Early start time today at noon. So we will want to get right into it here with the first fight of the night, where we have Ailin Perez taking on Stephanie Egger. You watch the weigh-ins, you listen to the pre-fight interviews. Ailin Perez is not messing around. She talks a great game, seems fearless, but I question her skill set here against Stephanie Egger, who is a credentialed judo black belt, somebody who's been in there with Gabby Garcia, and not a good look for Stephanie Egger last time out against Mayra Bueno Silva with the submission sequence. Also, the Tracy Cortez loss, not necessarily a good look. Stephanie Egger still 34 years of age. Perez, this is going to be a show me something fight, but I am not a believer in Perez. She's going to come out here and try to take Egger to the mat. I have a feeling we may see a head and arm throw. We've seen that a number of times in these low-level women's mixed martial arts fights, but Egger is the much more credentialed grappler here, and I'll be picking Egger to win. It would not surprise me to see Egger win via submission. Perez, only 7-1 overall record. Sonda background, we've seen Norma Dumont also come in with a similar background, but how often do we see these 145-pound women's fights? Not very often. So give me Stephanie Egger here. Second bout of the evening, where we have Khalid Taha, former Ryzen fighter, minus 125 betting favorite, taking on Taha-Quinonez, who looked decent on the Contender Series as a massive favorite. Quinonez has the volume here, also is the taller fighter with a bit of a reach advantage, somebody who is going to try and put volume on Khalid Taha. And Khalid Taha is, although in the Morozov bout, he wasn't able to land a fight-ending strike, has fight-ending potential. It's just a matter of, is he going to connect? We saw against Nad Narimani and others, he has decent cardio, can go deep into fights. His power also carries deep into fights. I think this fight is going to end up being a dog fight. You watch the weigh-ins, and it stood out to me that both of these fighters are going to get right to it. Surprisingly, I'll be picking Khalid Taha here. I think that the power is going to be a difference maker. Quinonez relies on volume. He lunges in when he starts striking, he lunges into his strikes, and I see Taha ending up landing a vicious counter strike. It would not surprise me to see this fight end inside the distance. And the other thing is, this bout, surprisingly, is expected to go to a decision at minus 135. I think this fight has the potential to end via finish. So give me Khalid Taha, and to do so inside the distance. Third bout of the evening, where we have Benoit Saint-Denis coming in as a minus 290 betting favorite. Somebody who man, you got to wonder how many years were taken off of his life in that Zaleski dos Santos fight. The referee in that bout, man, didn't do Saint-Denis any favors. Taking on Gabriel Miranda here, maybe this is a situation where they're giving him, I wouldn't call it a cupcake matchup, but Gabriel Miranda isn't necessarily a striker per se. He is more of a grappler. Look up and down his resume. He has a lot of submission victories. Fighting at an MMA Masters, which is a quality gym. We are aware of Nate Landwehr and other professional fighters who come out of that gym. Saint-Denis, this is a hometown spot for him. This is a fight where I expect him to come out here and cause Miranda some problems. The longer this fight goes, too, I question Miranda's cardio here. So give me Benoit Saint-Denis to win via submission. I think we're going to see more finishes than the bookmakers have lined favorites here. So give me Saint-Denis to win via submission in that spot. Let's take a look at some of these comments, my friends. Good morning, Jazz. Good to see you. Morning, JP. Danny, let's get what's ours. Let's see. Martin has a max bet on Whittaker by decision. Interesting. All right. Let's see what we got here. Full of question marks. There are some question marks. We will take a look at a few of them. Next up, we have Nasruddin Imavov coming in as a minus 250 betting favorite, taking on Joaquin Buckley. Buckley, interesting spot here. You have Buckley, who is the much shorter fighter, is a very explosive fighter. We saw against Impa Kasanganay, was tough to get a read on Buckley when you're inside of the octagon, because he really will dive into his strikes. The way he commits, he has to close that distance, and he's at most of the time a reach disadvantage. Surprisingly, has some long arms though, and he has a kick game that you have to be concerned about. He is a very powerful striker. Imavov seems to be gaining some steam out there. I saw the Phil Hawes bout was not a good look. Pushed against the fence, clinched up against the fence for extended periods of time. Seemed to, although that was a little over a year ago, seemed to go back to the drawing board, and against Ian Heinisch, fought a very different fight. And also, Heinisch is a grinder. Imavov really put it on him, and I was impressed in that spot. I'm impressed with the striking of Imavov, the way he's able to strike at range, and also his willingness to stay in the fight, his willingness to, he could have won that fight against Phil Hawes, gassed out. Phil Hawes, I mean, you talk about a fighter who was gassed out. That guy was on fumes. So Imavov, the fight against Edmund Shabazian, turned the corner. Now, you watched Buckley. Buckley has a 3-fight winning streak going. This is a fighter who, the Duraev fight, Duraev is a bit of a gasser. We knew that. The Arroyo fight, I don't put much stock into that. And the Al-Hassan fight, both of those fighters were gassed out late. So Buckley was having success via his grappling, surprisingly. I believe Imavov is the pick here. I think that at distance, he's going to have big time success against Buckley. He's just got to watch out for what's coming back at him. I don't want to see Imavov come out here and be gun shy. That's an issue in front of the home crowd, though. He thinks that this fight is going to end inside the distance. And let's take a look at the line on that inside the distance. Fight doesn't go the distance, sitting at minus 175. So, interesting spot. Imavov is going to be the pick. Buckley's coming across the pond here. Imavov, the hometown fighter here. I'll be picking him to win. All right. We have a fighter here who in Perez-Egger was taken off of the roster, I believe, at one point, coming in as a plus 170 betting underdog, taking on Mikhail-Figlak, who I got to say I was impressed with Figlak's tape on the Cage Warrior scene. He is a fighter with an extensive amateur record. I believe he's at 8-0 as a professional, but look at his amateur career. Somebody who fought Jack Shore, somebody who really put in time on the regional scene. And now he's up in the big show here, taking on Ziam, he did not look good on the scale, Ziam. And I also know that Ziam needs to have some space to work to be successful. And Figlak has leg kicks. He has some grappling ability that if he's able to put Perez-Egger on his back, that could end up being a round-ending scenario. Ziam does have better footwork. That's one area of the fight. The key here is you have to look at both sides of every fight. You can't have a silo mentality. A silo mentality is not what you need when you're capping MMA fights. There are two sides to every fight. And Ziam, hometown fighter, do I think he's going to win here? No. Figlak's going to be the pick. Young fighter who is well-rounded and has a grappling game to speak of, which is Ziam's kryptonite. So give me Figlak in that spot. Got another comment here. Nazir, you just woke up. Welcome. Good morning, sir. Remember, the fights start today at noon Eastern. All right. We have a significant favorite here, somebody with PFL experience, Abu Magomedov, taking on Dustin Stoltzfus. I was at Dustin Stoltzfus' last fight against Dwight Grant, where he moved up to middleweight and he executed a great game plan there. Let's be honest. Mixed in his wrestling, was able to cause Dwight Grant some problems on the mat and grinded out a decision. Stoltzfus has solid cardio. Abu Magomedov, don't think that he's the perfect fighter. He isn't. He's somebody who's been finished, I believe, 3 times in the past. We saw him finished the PFL title fight. Somebody who has a diverse set of high-level skills, but he's massive for the division, and I am not going to put all my eggs in one basket here with Abu Magomedov, though when it comes to skill for skill, he's the more talented fighter through and through. This is a situation where if the longer the fight goes, I give Stoltzfus a shot here. If this gets past the second round and Magomed looks like he's gassing, then I am going to pull the trigger on Stoltzfus. This fight isn't expected to go to a decision at minus 165. And the pick's going to be Magomedov, but I could see him gassing out late. Let's see. 4 hours, Moyes, right? Excellent. By the way, Moyes, appreciate your the carousel work that you do on Twitter. Nice job. All right. Wow. All right. This is we've got a few people's main event of the evening. This is one of them here. Nathaniel Wood taking on Charles Jourdain at 145 pounds. Great fight. Jourdain, I was also at his last fight against Shane Burgos. We saw Jourdain take it down and put in some really tough spots against Burgos with the neck crank. And one thing about Charles Jourdain, he tends to overcommit on his strikes and can get out grappled. Nathaniel Wood is undersized for the division here at 145 pounds. Had trouble making bantamweight. Coming in as a plus 115 underdog. Nathaniel Wood, better grappler here. Somebody who also we have to as we look deeper into the fight. Wood does have some issues with his with his chin. The John Dodson fight was a fight that he was looking good, and then all of a sudden gets cracked and dropped. And we've seen even in his UFC debut, the striking was slick, but the defensive tendencies put him in some predicaments and some tough spots. I think blood may be drawn during this bout. It wouldn't surprise me to see blood percolating through a cut on a fighter's face during this bout. Charles Jourdain has the better cardio here. We know that he may be the more powerful striker, but as far as technical striking and as far as the grappling goes, Nathaniel Wood is the better fighter, both on the feet and on the mat when it comes to technical precision, being a tactician. This is a very closely lined fight. Surprisingly, I'm going to pick Nathaniel Wood here, the underdog. I believe that if Jourdain overcommits on a strike, Wood is going to capitalize on that. And if this fight hits the mat, it would not surprise me to see Wood have some significant success down there. Give me Nathaniel Wood. And it wouldn't surprise me also to see Charles Jourdain end up in a fight-ending sequence via TKO victory. But I have to look at both sides of the fight, the odds, the implied probability, etc. And Nathaniel Wood is going to be my pick here. He's got a much better shot than current odds suggest. The Charles Rosa fight is about that. I don't put too much stock into that because Rosa is pretty much a sitting duck out there. That was a gimme fight for Nathaniel Wood. This is going to be a real test today, but I slightly lean. I'm going to be picking Nathaniel Wood as the underdog here. Before we get into that one, let's see. Liam, good morning. Ends by sub plus 440. That would not surprise me one bit. Good morning, brother. Good to see you. All right. Now, we talked about the first fight, the curtain jerker fight between Eileen Perez and Stephanie Egger, being one of the lower level fights of the card, despite Stephanie Egger possessing some high level judo. This is the other fight that is the bottom of the barrel when it comes to talent goes. Both of these fighters relatively young. William Gomis, local fighter here, coming in with a 10-2 overall record. Somebody who is relentless and is willing to push forward. But as you watch his bouts, the execution of the technique isn't there. And you can see he's starting to put it together. But as far as fight-ending sequences go, they typically end via ground and pound, and it doesn't necessarily end via a technique being implemented so much so as a submission or a beautiful strike. Jourdain-Wood, he is up there as far as the worst fighter on the scales as far as how they looked. I was concerned with how he arrived on the scales yesterday, and I went back and you watch his tape. He'll go for it. I'll say that, but there are a lot of holes in his game, and this fight is expected to end inside the distance at minus 142. This is a low-level fight. There's going to be a lot of volatility. Folks refer to variance, etc. This is a volatile fight. I wouldn't be going out of my way to lay minus 225 on Gomis-Errens is live for a knockout. When we talk about a fighter being relentless, pursuing the target, moving forward, plodding ahead, that leaves openings for a counter striker. And it's just a matter of, is Errens going to be able to land that counter strike? I'll be picking Gomis, just, I don't want to say solely based on, but it has a lot to do with predictability is he's relentless and he will press forward and bring the fight to his opponent. And that in the low level of some mixed martial arts, that lends itself to a successful endeavor. So give me William Gomis here. And I am elated to move on to the next bout, where we have Nasrat Haqparast coming in as a minus 230 betting favorite, taking on the grizzled veteran Jourdain-Makdessi, who is coming in as a plus 190 underdog. Makdessi coming off of some surgery that took place about 8 months ago, where he had his hamstring reattached to the bone, worked his way back, came in at 145 and a half pounds, which is something you like to see when you're watching the weigh-ins. Came in a little underweight. Taking on Haqparast, who also is no stranger to going under the knife. He had multiple surgeries, I believe, on his hand that took place a few months ago after a loss to Bobby Green. You watch back the Bobby Green fight, Haqparast was not able to get going, seemed gun shy at range when it came to the boxing. Makdessi is a very technical striker. He's going to be at a big reach disadvantage here, a 4-inch reach disadvantage against Haqparast. That didn't cause Makdessi much problems last time out when he took on Ignacio Bahamondes. Was able to just walk right into the fire. Wasn't really, it almost seemed like once he was in range, Bahamondes' strikes didn't pose a significant threat. Now, Haqparast is a heavier hitter on the feet with the hands than Ignacio Bahamondes. And Makdessi's getting up there, 37 years of age. Makdessi has been a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde type of fighter. Go watch back the Francisco Trinaldo fight, where he was backing up and circling. I tried to count how many times John Makdessi, the circumference of the octagon, how many times he navigated that terrain. It must have been over 20 times, possibly more. And then you watch the Ignacio Bahamondes fight, and he's moving forward, and he's having success when he's moving forward. So in the pre-fight interviews here, we know there's some animosity headed into this bout. I believe a few years ago, Haqparast chimed in on one of my Twitter posts and said that this is unfinished business. And Makdessi said he's not going to be taking a step back in this bout. And I believe him here. I think that he's going to come forward, that this is going to be a dogfight, and that Haqparast is going to land the much heavier strikes and get back on to the winning track here. It's just a matter of, is he going to do this inside the distance? And you look at fight goes the distance sitting at minus 165. I think this fight has the potential to end inside the distance, and I'll be picking Nasrat Haqparast to win inside the distance. We've seen against Dan Hooker, massive reach disadvantage there for Haqparast. A competent boxer in Bobby Green causing some problems for Haqparast. And then also the Drew Dober fight is something to be concerned about here. And then you watch some of the other fights from Haqparast, and he's put on quite the show. The Diakese fight, there have been others in the past where he's performed very well. This is a fight that takes place in Europe, and Haqparast, although he does spend time in California, and Dariush and a few others have helped him, I expect a hometown type of reception for Haqparast here. And don't forget, Makdessi is also French Canadian too, or he's French Canadian. So there's a I'll be interested to see how each fighter is received later today. But give me Nasrat Haqparast to win, and to win inside the distance there. Next up, where we have Roman Kopylov taking on Alessio Di Chirico. Alessio Di Chirico coming in as a -115 fighter. Both of these fights, this is close to evens here. A pick'em fight. Roman Kopylov -115 as well. This is an interesting bout. Alessio Di Chirico has time to convalesce. Since he's had time to convalesce after his brutal knockout loss to Al-Hassan, and Kopylov last time out against Duraev, we saw the kid has heart. He, in the Fight Nights global scene, we saw a much more composed fighter. This is somebody who's lost to Carl Roberson in the past, somebody who hasn't necessarily been able to put his entire game together. And he took a lot of damage in the Duraev fight, but he wasn't brutally knocked out in the fashion that Di Chirico was against Al-Hassan. Di Chirico, sturdy fighter, somebody who will go out there and will repeat the same technique over and over. I watched the Kevin Holland fight back as well. I believe Kevin Holland actually had a dislocated or separated shoulder during that bout. Another thing that's interesting, both of these fighters similar in age. You'd think Kopylov is some sort of prospect, but it's time to shine, brother. You can't just arrive here as a 31-year-old and start picking your spots. The matchmakers are going to put you in situations where you could potentially lose. And here, this is a toss-up fight to me. Who's going to show up? That is the question. And in the larger octagon, I think Kopylov has a little bit more to offer as far as a diversity and skill set, and the wiry frame could come into play here as well. I think that Kopylov is going to walk away with a decision victory here. The other thing is, when you have a fighter who's been brutally knocked out, sometimes they'll come into their next fight with a more measured game plan to protect themselves. So give me Roman Kopylov, who maybe Di Chirico may be a bit gun shy here after getting brutally knocked out. Now, co-main event of the evening. This is about that we've been waiting for quite some time. This actually could be the headline fight of the night here, where we have Robert Whittaker taking on Marvin Vettori. Marvin Vettori is somebody who we've cashed on numerous times in the past. Against Paulo Costa last time out, we saw Costa decided what weight this was going to take place at. Marvin Vettori just jumped at it. Marvin Vettori is possesses a marauder-esque tendencies when he's out navigating the terrain of the octagon, as a plodding fighter who will come forward and doesn't move his head much. Somebody who Master Rafael Cordero was trying to bargain with him in the corner, trying to help him deviate and go to a plan B when Israel Adesanya was having significant success against him, and Vettori could not do that. Seemed bullheaded in his approach, bullheaded in many aspects of his both professional life and and when you hear him talk outside of the octagon. Robert Whittaker is a fighter who we know durability has come into question here. I think the larger octagon is going to pay Robert Whittaker some dividends here. Robert Whittaker, the much cleaner striker, the tactician. Whittaker should have opportunities to succeed. Now, is Whittaker going to get chopped down via leg kicks? Is Whittaker going to get clipped? Is Whittaker going to get taken down, which is a possibility here against Marvin Vettori, who, if he's able to get his hands on you, he has a solid grappling game. As I mentioned in a breakdown I did yesterday, that Vettori has submission wins over black belts. He has a solid ground game and submission game, but Robert Whittaker's body type and his skill set, he's almost like a spring out there, is somebody who will pop back up to his feet immediately and will make opponents pay, and does so with vicious intentions. I thought he could have gotten the nod against Israel Adesanya in the most recent fight, but then you also saw how aggressive he came out in the first Adesanya fight, and he got brutally knocked out. And we've seen Whittaker, 31 years of age, has taken some tremendous damage against Yoel Romero, fought a phenomenal fight only a year ago against Kelvin Gastelum. I've seen folks on my timeline point out that the Gastelum fight was a long time ago. Nope, it was about a year and a half ago. So that is, as far as the shelf life goes of a fighter, he could have potentially beat Adesanya. And then he also did beat Kelvin Gastelum, fought a great fight against Jared Cannonier, was dropped in a couple of his bouts against Darren Till and others. But Robert Whittaker, great cardio, and he is acutely aware of his surroundings when he's competing. That's one thing that really stands out to me. Somebody who will strike when he has to, who will move when he has to, and has the foresight to plan ahead. Whereas Marvin Vettori, he's coming at you, he's going to do his thing, and he doesn't. And Vettori is not quick, and the quickness should be the difference maker here. So I like Robert Whittaker here. You could have gotten in at a few different prices. I don't hate the decision prop if you are getting in on that. If you want to be cute and pick Robert Whittaker via decision, you're going to get a much better price. I believe minus 109 is what I currently see. But it wouldn't surprise me to see Whittaker making Vettori pay and end up knocking him out. It would not surprise me to see Vettori here have some success in this bout. Vettori is on the rise. You look up and down his resume, he's a fighter who will fight incredibly hard for your money. He was in there all 5 rounds against Israel Adesanya, and he went all 3 rounds and dominated some of the fight against Paulo Costa. That is a big feather in your cap. The thing is, though, the quickness is going to be on display here. In my eyes, I see that Whittaker is the clear favorite, and this is a tailor-made matchup for him. The issue is, though, is the durability going to rear its ugly head, and can Vettori capitalize on that? So I'll be picking Robert Whittaker to win, and I am ready to move on to the main event. Let's just take a look at a couple of the comments here. Marvin going to walk into the same shots Kellen did. Probably. Well said, Mike. I think Marvin will be reacting to Whittaker all night. It's interesting how you watched back the weigh-ins yesterday, and Marvin Vettori was trying to get into Whittaker's head there with the handshake or lack thereof. But Whittaker has some clear advantages here, but Vettori, you can't totally count him out. He's somebody who will not go away, and he is tough as nails. Let's move to the main event of the evening, where we have Ciryl Gane taking on Tai-Tuivasa. Tai-Tuivasa, he has a puncher's chance at heavyweight. Just about everybody has a puncher's chance. Plus 390 underdog, taking on Ciryl Gane, who is now sitting at minus 590. The question is, does Tuivasa get frustrated and end up trying to charge ahead and close distance on Ciryl Gane? Take a look at the sub prop for Ciryl Gane. He has a wide diversity of skill set available to him. This is someone who started their MMA career at only in 2018. So he's been at this for a very short time, but has made leaps and bounds. Hasn't taken much damage out there. Even against Francis Ngannou, was one transition away from walking away with the heavyweight title. That strap could be around Ciryl Gane. But we don't live in a world where we don't live in an alternate reality here. So Ciryl Gane has I wouldn't say he's the quicker fighter here, because Tuivasa is pretty damn quick, the way he's able to explode into his punches. But Gane has significant reach advantage here, I believe. Also is a much more athletic fighter. Tuivasa came in at 266 pounds. You talk about morbidly obese individuals. Taha-Quinonez is one of them. Somebody who's carrying around probably an extra 30, 40 pounds more than they should. And it's cost him in fights. He's been on his back. He's been submitted. The Spivak fight on home turf, I believe, and that was a horrific look. Ciryl Gane could use his footwork. That's what makes Ciryl Gane great, is his ability to move on the feet. Whereas Tuivasa is a person who plods forward, and it takes him a while to get going when he gets moving. But the big man's quick, Tuivasa. I'll be picking Ciryl Gane to win, and win so inside the distance. Take a look at the submission line. I believe that is in play here against somebody who has been submitted before, and Tuivasa is his head is like a big brick. He's able to absorb a tremendous amount of damage. The Derek Lewis fight seemed totally unfazed in that bout. Wasn't in fear of the strikes that were coming back at him. I see, if we live in an alternate reality, this would be a pay-per-view with 2 title fights headlining the card. Yes. Yeah. Actually, it would warm my heart if the Marvin Vettori Robert Whittaker fight was the main event and was scheduled for 5 rounds. That would have been a better fight than what we're seeing here between Ciryl Gane and Taha-Quinonez. Now, let's see. Ty's puncher's chance at plus 650. No point betting his money line. Yeah, I agree with that. In what world does Taha-Quinonez win a decision against Ciryl Gane? The chances of that happening are very, 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 very slim. I'll be picking Ciryl Gane to do so. Inside the distance, though, it would not surprise me to see Ciryl Gane stay at range, get in, get out, look pretty in front of the crowd, and try to just put on a Muhammad Ali-esque performance where he's floating like a butterfly and stinging like a bee. So give me Ciryl Gane to win. I'm not laying minus 590, and I don't recommend folks go that route, but it wouldn't surprise me to see him win a decision as well. So, but give me Ciryl Gane to win. And thank everybody for tuning in today. Remember to go get what's yours. Remember to do your homework. Make sure you're heeding the advice of folks who are third-party tracked and have a legitimate winning record. Pick your spots, take a measured approach, and do your thing. Enjoy the fights today. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks again.